Thank you all for being here. My name is Terry Helton, and I'm the president of the Ventura County Interfaith Community. It is such a pleasure to see family that's interfaith and new friends here. So very, very much welcome. And as we get started, I do not have the prayer tonight, but I do want to mention that we want to remember that we're on sacred ground, that before we ever came here, there were people who inhabited this place, and we want to honor them and remember them, that we now exist in that place and bring respect for that. And also, as we get started, I'd like to remind us why we are here. The mission of the Ventura County Interfaith Community, established in 2005, is to create a safe and nurturing space where individuals from diverse faiths and backgrounds come together to learn, share, and grow while warmly embracing all community members. So thank you again for being here. A few things that I like to remind us of. This evening before you leave, we'll pass out some surveys because we, believe it or not, we do look at them. We have gotten ideas from them, and we always appreciate your feedback. It also helps us know where you're coming from. So last time we were way at the other end of this county, towards LA. This time we're in Ventura. So this is a gift that we are around the county now. The other thing is we're only doing things about every 60 days now. And so we have an event coming up not on a Tuesday. So keep that in your head. It will actually be on a Sunday, and it will be at 2:30 in the afternoon in Camarillo, and it's called After the Final Breath. We will be meeting at Caneo Mountain Funeral Home and Crematorium to talk about what happens in different faiths after the last breath. And there will be speakers from about 4 or 5 different faiths, and somebody from Caneo Mountain who will spend 5 minutes each to talk about the specifics. So for example, I know that in the Jewish faith certain things happen, and I know in the Muslim faith there are different things that happen. We're not all the same in how we treat our loved ones after they die. So,
and can I just comment that the focus on this is at the cemetery and the funeral home. It's not what happens in heaven and
right.
Stuff like that. It's really very short range.
So here's a flyer to pick up. I can go put it by the cookies and whatever. And then if you want more information, I'll put this over there too. This is our flyer. Also, remember that vcic.info, you can always go to that and see past things that we have done. Tim Helton, our PR guy here, who's going to ask the questions later tonight, ask and answer. Not going to be me for a change. Is going to come up here and ask some questions of our speaker and those in the audience. And he is going to introduce the gentleman who's speaking tonight. So he has taken that bother to make sure we have videotapes of many of the events we have. You can go back to vcic.info and look at some of the events, and you'll also see what's coming up. Saying that, I'm going to introduce Dr. Tim Helton, who's going to be our lead guy tonight. Thank you for moderating.
Thank you. Can you call Betty Staple first? She's having trouble finding us.
I know, I saw.
Okay. We're a small organization, so we take care of the people that work with us. Thank you, Keith, for taking over for me. I'm privileged to introduce Pastor Rockney Dahl. Let me just tell you before I do, though, that the format of this event will be that Pastor Rockney Dahl will speak for about 45 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes, on the Seventh-day Adventist faith. Save your questions. We'll take them at the end, and he has promised to answer each and every question with great authority. So, so save it towards the end, and we'll take them all.
I'm going home now.
Pastor Rockney Dahl was born in January 9th, 1943 in San Francisco. His father became an Adventist pastor in 1950. 2 uncles also served as Adventist ministers as well. Rockney grew up as a PK, which means preacher's kid, and attended 6 elementary schools in 8 years as the family moved from one church to another, all in California. Rockney graduated in 1965 from Pacific Union College, which is located in Angwin, California, in the hills above Napa Valley. He then earned a master's in divinity from Andrews University and seminary in Berrien Springs, Michigan, and a master's degree in marriage, child, and family counseling from Azusa Pacific College. Rockney has pastored 7 churches full-time and formally retired in July of 2010. For the past 16 years, he has been privileged to do interim pastoring in 6 churches and has been a frequent guest speaker. He and his wife Sonia have a blended family with 4 daughters, 5 granddaughters, 4 grandsons, plus 2 adopted grandsons, and 5 great-grandchildren. The latest edition was born 4 weeks ago. Rockney and Sonia love to travel, especially to Switzerland, which is their land of origin. Rockney's hobbies include reading and trying not to lose his money in the stock market. Rockney, come on up, and afterwards we're gonna have to compare notes on where you lived in California, because I grew up at BK too, and we moved all over California about every 2 or 3 years. So, Rockney, welcome.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Do you have a little lectern where I can put my notes that I'm going to read?
Do you want to use the Bema? Is that okay?
Well, I don't want to be that elevated above you, you know, but if you have a...
What were you thinking of, Brenda?
In a corner
In
by
a
the
corner by
piano.
piano, we can bring down the mic.
Oh, there it is. Music stand.
One church that I pastored for 5 years and then came back years later for 7 months was our Ventura congregation. So I am reasonably familiar with the city here, and we have several secret agents here that have infiltrated the meeting tonight. Brother back there, raise your hand. Yeah, okay. And these folks right here go to our Ojai church too. Oh yeah.
And Carol is very.
Oh, hi there. Okay. Good. It's an honor to be here. It's a pleasure. I'm gonna.
Let me get that for you.
Okay, I'm gonna try to get that up. I don't usually read from a manuscript, but I'm kind of going to do that
about
this
right?
evening. Yeah, that'll be fine. I'm kind of going to do that this evening because I want to stick to the topic, you know, and not wander off. Shall we have a prayer? Let's do that. Gracious God, we thank you for this august group. We pray that you will be with every person and in every heart tonight and in every mind as we consider and think and feel and love each other and the work that this body is undertaking in our communities. We thank you for that. Amen. 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 William Miller was a Baptist preacher who was born into a Baptist family in 1782 in Pittsfield, Massachusetts. He was one of 16 children in the family, and he learned to read at the age of 4. He read Voltaire and other skeptics and became a deist, which means, as most of you know, that he believed in an impersonal God who was the creator, got everything going like a giant clock, wound it up, let it started running, and then disappeared, backed away. So we're not continuing to be involved in the created world. Then along came the War of 1812, and Miller served in the American Army as a captain. At the Battle of Plattsburgh, the American naval forces scored a surprising victory over the British fleet. A shell landed a few feet from Miller on the deck of the ship where his infantry unit was serving and did not explode. All over the deck, other shells had exploded and many men were wounded or lay dying. After the war was over, Miller kept thinking and thinking about his remarkable escape from death, and finally concluded that a kindly deity had acted to save his life. He began to read the Bible nonstop, was converted, and entered the ministry. He was enthralled by the prophecies of Daniel in the Old Testament and concluded, based on those prophecies, as well as those in the book of Revelation and elsewhere in the Bible, that the coming of Christ was imminent. The coming would be visible, literal, and personal. And he convinced himself, after one embarrassing date-setting mistake, that Jesus would return on October 22, 1844. His preaching was a sensation in New England, which was a hotbed of religious fervor. Many people left their homes and their jobs, their careers, in order to witness to the soon coming of Christ. This movement, now called the Millerite movement, in the words of a contemporary, turned the world upside down. There was opposition. Many detractors pointed out that Jesus himself had said, "No man knows the day nor the hour, not even the Son, but only the Father." But the Millerites were so convinced, some would say fanatically convinced, that the movement continued. Many churches closed their doors to Millerite preachers, and Miller himself was tossed out of the Baptist communion. But then, October 22, 1844 came and went, and no Jesus appeared in the clouds of heaven. This became known in Adventist history as the Great Disappointment. You can imagine the crushing embarrassment and the disappointment of so many faithful believers who had staked everything on a second coming of Christ on October 22. Miller himself gave up his faith and was rarely ever seen or heard from again. But there were some who still believed passionately that even though the date was in error, the soon coming of Christ was still a fact. They refused to give up their blessed hope and continued to pray and study. Among the remnants of the Millerite movement were two young people named Ellen Gould Harmon and James White. They married and became two of the many founders of what is now known as the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Why had Christ not returned as expected? Well, besides the obvious answer that date setting was a colossal mistake, another biblical answer emerged. The church had not fulfilled the Great Commission found in Matthew 28:18-20. That passage says, "Then Jesus came to them and said, 'All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age.'" Yes, the churches had proclaimed the good news for centuries, but the work of evangelism had not been carried to the ends of the earth. The next verse I will read summarizes the continuing mission and hope of the Advent movement and the SDA Church today. In Matthew 24:14, Jesus promised, "And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in the whole world as a testimony to all the nations, and then the end will come." That verse is the reason for the existence of the SDA Church. It is our call to mission and remains so to this day. That is the Adventist part of our denominational name. And there is a wonderful incentive in trying to do our part in spreading the good news. An incentive. Jesus said, "Let not your hearts be troubled. If you believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions," which in the Greek is the word rooms. "If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you, and if I go to prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself, that where I am, there you may be also." Many mansions, that is, many rooms. I've been to Israel 4 times. I love Israel. Every square centimeter of that country I love. And I've been to Capernaum. That's not pronounced correctly, but and there's the ruins of the village of Capernaum, which was one of Jesus' favorite places to visit and to preach in during his ministry. And when you look at that village, it is a group of what looks kind of like condominiums or apartments around a central atrium, central opening where they prepared their food. And these were where the people lived in the apartments or the townhouses. And then there was a wall around the city. There were many rooms there. See? So what Jesus was saying in this promise is there's room in God's heart for all of us. You know, there's an old saying, if there's room in your heart, there's room in your house. And he was saying there's room in his heart for all of us. While I was a student at Pacific Union College, which is an Adventist school perched in the mountains above the Napa Valley, I felt the call to ministry one summer while selling Adventist books door to door back in 1963. That was the hardest job I've ever had in my life, trying to sell religious books door to door. Bam, there was another door slammed. Didn't you read the sign that said no salesman? But I met people and we talked religion. I had a wonderful time with a number of families I met. And so I felt the call to become a minister as my father had felt the call to the ministry before me. And so I started in at Pacific Union College. There were 38 ministerial students in our graduating class. Half of them went to the mission field. I was privileged to visit 2 mission villages in Laos during the Vietnam War in 1969. That was an experience I will never forget. On that trip, my wife's family and I slept on the floor in one of the staff homes at the Bangkok Adventist Hospital. My father-in-law was a medical doctor and volunteered for 2 years of medical service in Thailand. That night, we watched a police station burn down across the street as the students overthrew the government. Thousands perished. We took the famous Klong ride a few days later on the Mekong River and were horrified to see 2 dead students floating in the river past our boat. The Adventist Church now has 23.6 million members because the church has been organized to remain focused on the mission. This growth is highly localized in sub-Saharan Africa and South America, where it is exploding. In Europe and North America, the growth is stagnant. Our educational system was developed to provide the denomination with pastors and teachers doctors and nurses who would serve worldwide. There are 13 accredited colleges and universities in North America, including Loma Linda University Medical School, Dental School, and other allied medical professions as well. Walla Walla College in Washington State has a School of Engineering. Our seminary is located in Michigan. The educational system has been of particular value in developing countries because the elementary school through college pathway is a ladder for many young people who have few other educational opportunities. Because our mission field is the world, we strongly appreciate countries that allow religious freedom. The Adventist Church is strongly apolitical. If you want to get yourself fired as a pastor, start preaching politics. You know who I'm for in the Republican Party? I'm for Abe Lincoln. That won't get me fired, see? But apolitical and pro-religious liberty. Pew Research estimates that 2/3 of the population on planet Earth suffer some form of religious intolerance, oppression, or outright persecution. My uncle Roy Henneberg was a mission president in Colombia, South America. He was almost executed by firing squad, but a kindly priest intervened and saved his life. I visited mainland China, where I attended an Adventist worship service in a huge church in Shanghai, evidently a cathedral at one time. That was the worship center for several different Christian congregations. The government did not allow us to count up all our members across China and then report the total to our world headquarters in Washington, D.C. Because if you were a Christian in China, you needed to be fully Chinese and loyal to China, not someone belonging to an international religious organization that might be competing for your allegiance. We believe strongly in the separation of church and state, in the right to choose your own pathway of faith, the right to be even non-religious. Religious freedom is essential as we all make our own decisions as to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our local headquarters is in Westlake Village, not far from here. It is the administrative center for the church in 5 western states, including Hawaii. If you visit our Union Conference office, as it is called, you can be shown to the Religious Liberty Department. An attorney who is a friend of mine was the leader of that department until his recent retirement. His office, his name is Alan Reinach. His office has championed the religious liberty of many people, regardless of their faith persuasion. I called him one day, and he was on a highway in New England going somewhere to prepare for a possible Supreme Court appearance. He's made several appearances before that august tribunal. If you have a religious liberty problem, the Adventist Church is your friend. Having a worldwide mission brings our church workers into contact with many cultures and with often desperate poverty. Very close to our heart is an organization entitled the Adventist Development and Relief Agency, or ADRA. It operates in 130 countries, providing disaster relief, economic empowerment, health care, and education, regardless of religion or ethnicity. The biblical inspiration for the Adventist Development and Health Agency is found in Matthew 25. That passage says, "When the Son of Man comes in his glory, and all the angels with him, he will sit on his glorious throne. All the nations will be gathered before him." All the nations in Greek is the ethnos, the nations of the world. All the ethnic peoples and nations will be gathered before him. And he will separate the people one from another as a shepherd separates the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on his right and the goats on his left. Then the king will say to those on his right, Come, you who are blessed by my Father. Take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me. Then the righteous will answer him, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? When did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or needing clothes and clothe you? When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you? The king will reply, Truly, I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these, my brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me. I feel in my heart that what unites the Ventura County Interfaith Agency is the desire to unite and make a difference for the health and wellness and well-being of the people in our communities. I am sure you agree that God desires us to work to practice kindness to everyone. Am I right?
Absolutely.
ADRA was granted general consultative status by the United Nations in 1997. Powerful earthquakes recently devastated Venezuela. Right now, ADRA Venezuela is coordinating actively with the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs and local church networks. Right now, ADRA is distributing 6,000 personal hygiene kits. The agency has deployed teams to distribute 10,000 emergency food kits, especially prioritizing households with elderly members and children under the age of 5. They have established safe, child-friendly spaces inside shelters with dedicated resources for over 400 unaccompanied children, such as mental health and psychosocial support to help deal with the trauma of continuing aftershocks. When I was a boy, and then later on as a pastor, every Christmas Adventist church is mobilized to help ADRA. Remember that? We did this by going door to door at night singing Christmas carols. If you dared open the door, we pounced. No, it wasn't that bad. We did this by going door to door singing Christmas carols. A charming member would solicit donations to help with the worldwide work. I always loved taking our team from Santa Monica SDA Church to Betty White's house. You know Betty White? To Betty White's house in the Pacific Palisades. She was so sweet. She listened to a Christmas carol, gave us some Christmas treats, and a donation. Up we went to the next house. Of particular importance to the worldwide mission of evangelism has been what we call the right arm of the message. This is the health and medical ministry of the church. I looked it up on Wikipedia, which is, as you know, an absolutely 100% accurate source of information.
Everybody does it.
Did I miss something? This source says that in 2022, the Adventist Church was the largest Protestant healthcare provider in the world, with 1,000 healthcare facilities around the world. The facilities altogether at 36,000 beds, 78,000 employees. In fact, there's an Adventist hospital in Simi Valley, one in Glendale, where my oldest daughter was born, and one in Loma Linda. The new hospital recently built in Loma Linda is the first in the state of California to sit on giant springs and have giant rollers under it, both, so that in the event of earthquake, the hospital won't collapse. The first building in California to have rollers and giant springs. It might rock and roll, but it won't fall down. So if you're in need of a hospital in California and you don't want to be worried about perishing in an earthquake, better go to Loma Linda University Hospital. It's a blue zone too, you know. So some of that might rub off on you. Thanks to the ministry of Ellen White, who wrote 4 books on diet and health, and physicians like John Harvey Kellogg of Battle Creek, Michigan, good health became a core teaching and practice of the church. Dr. Kellogg was a founder of the famous Battle Creek Sanitarium and Hospital. He invented Kellogg's Corn Flakes. That's right. Every time you pop open a box of corn flakes, you're gobbling down an Adventist invented cereal. Unfortunately, we don't get any royalties. He and Ellen White had a falling out. He took his hospital away, etc., etc. A patient of his named C.W. Post, who eventually became an employee of Kellogg's Health Food Company, stole the secret process to produce cornflakes and opened his own beverage company. His coffee substitute was called Postum. And became a massive commercial success. But before talking, because you weren't supposed to drink coffee if you were a good Adventist, you know. But before talking about the health message of the church in the Loma Linda Blue Zones, I want to talk about the other part of our denominational name, Seventh-day, as in Seventh-day Adventist. Of particular interest to the early Adventists was the teaching of one of the church pioneers who was named Joseph Bates. Bates was a retired sea captain and co-founder of the church. As the movement's first theologian, he pioneered Sabbatarian Adventism and mission theory and served as the first church president. In 1845, Bates became convinced of the biblical necessity of observing the seventh-day Sabbath, that is Shabbat. Some people call it Saturday. Well, you might be thinking, why not observe all 7 days of the week as days of worship? Or why not worship on the first day of the week as most Christians do? Why Saturday? Of course, we have to worship God every day, but there are 2 distinct advantages to having a Sabbath or a Shabbat, as our Jewish friends would say. The first is that the 10 Commandments, the Decalogue, remain God's rule of law for mankind. That's why they were written on stone. James, the half-brother of Jesus, said, if you really keep the royal law found in Scripture, love your neighbor as yourself, you're doing right. But if you show favoritism, you sin and are convicted by the law as lawbreakers. For whoever keeps the whole law and yet stumbles at just one point is guilty of breaking all of it. For he who said, do not commit adultery, also said, do not murder. Speak and act as those who are going to be judged by the law that gives freedom. 10 commandments are definitely good commandments, good laws of what we must not do to our neighbor. And as we learn from the Golden Rule teaches us what we ought to do for our neighbor. And Jesus cited that in Matthew chapter 25. How sweet it would be, how good it would be if all humanity lived by these moral precepts of what we're not to do and what we are to do, including in the 10 commandments, the 4th commandment, the longest of all of the 10 commandments, the Shabbat commandment. Exodus 28:10 says, remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. But the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work. Unless you're a minister.
It's not work.
Oh, okay. Thanks for clearing that up. The Sabbath is to be a day of holy rest in relation to God. The Sabbath is the designated time for us to recharge our spiritual batteries, to take a mental break from the blizzard of news and disturbing events. Shabbat is part of the health advantage promoted by our church and by our Jewish friends. Few of us get enough rest and sleep, and Shabbat is God's commandment that you get more rest and sleep. A second advantage of Shabbat is that it is a day on which we honor the Creator who made the entire universe. 4th commandment also says, for in 6 days the Lord made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, but he rested on the 7th day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. And my wife is here this evening. She is a Swiss citizen as well as being an American citizen. And her father was a German doctor in the army during the war, served in the Crimea, and was of Lutheran spiritual origins, and eventually they found their way here to the U.S. And one day somebody showed him the 10 Commandments. Oh, there's that 4th commandment, says the 7th day of the week is the Sabbath. And he went and looked at the calendar and it was Saturday. And that was it for him. He departed the Lutheran church, and he and Sonia's mother became Adventists the rest of their lives. Everyone here believes, I am sure, that the universe did not create itself. Somehow the first cause caused the universe to explode forth from the singularity point, and it has been expanding at an accelerating rate ever since. By resting on the Sabbath, we remember, as the commandment says, that we are honoring the creator of this incredible cosmos. It is a memorial day of creation. It is the birthday of the planet celebrated once a week. Did Jesus honor the Sabbath? How did he keep it? In Mark 2:27 and 28, he called himself Lord of the Sabbath. What is especially interesting is that in the gospel narratives, Jesus does exactly 7. Some overlap from one gospel to another, but there are exactly 7 Sabbath miracles in order to show us that the Sabbath is about more than taking naps after church. I have to keep reminding my church members of that. You know. Jesus used the Sabbath hours to find people who needed healing physically, mentally, and spiritually. He went to them and he responded to those needs, modeling for us our work for others every day of the week, but especially on Sabbath. In the book of Revelation, we find a verse that refers directly to the commandments of God. Revelation 14:12 says, this calls for patient endurance on the part of the saints who keep the commandments of God and remain faithful to Jesus. Now, for something that could add 10 years of wellness to your life, are you interested? For something that could add 10 good years to your life? Of course, you've heard about blue zones, right?
No,
No?
no, I have no idea what you mean.
Oh, boy, I'm having fun tonight. The term blue zone first appeared internationally as a concept in the November 2005 issue of National Geographic magazine. Dan Buettner is often referred to as National Geographic's Explorer of Longevity. The following material is drawn largely from a small booklet I will be quoting liberally from, and you're in such good luck because that's yours, that's yours, because I have 30 copies. Why do they cost me $100 a piece? Oh, okay, I'm lying.
He's still going door to door selling.
It is entitled Anti-Aging Secrets of the Bible. Yeah. And it was written by a member of our Simi Valley Church where Sonia and I are members. The name of the doctor of nutrition is Dr. John Westerdahl. John Westerdahl's life work is to advocate biblical perspectives of health, wellness, and longevity. He has a radio talk show called Health and Longevity that is broadcast internationally on Life Talk Radio. I was just watching television this week on one channel. There was a young man who had what was said to be an incurable form of cancer, and he began to study principles of longevity and wellness. And now, 6 years later, he looks younger and healthier than he did when he first started his program. He works at longevity 6 hours a day. It is becoming an increasingly popular topic. Dan Buettner of National Geographic fame identified 5 geographic areas of the world where people live the longest. Okinawa, Japan. That's where the longest live ladies in the world live. Sardinia in Italy. Icaria, Greece. Nicoya, Costa Rica, and Loma Linda, California. Loma Linda is right here in California in the Inland Empire and is a hotbed of Adventism and a great blue zone exhibit. This is remarkable because most blue zones are in isolated areas away from urban centers. Loma Linda is right here, just immediately adjacent to the Interstate 10 and just east of the 215. It ought to be a place where people are suffering from smog, heat, air, and noise pollution. The smog there used to be really terrible. It ought to be a place where there would be any color but blue. but extensive, multi-decade research, such as the Adventist health studies conducted by Loma Linda University, reveal that Adventist men live approximately 7.3 years longer than other Californians. And Adventist women live about 4.4 years longer than other Californians. There are 5 foundational health habits that make Loma Linda one of the blue zones of longevity. The first is abstaining from tobacco and alcohol. Ellen White was the first leader in the church to condemn smoking. She said tobacco is a slow, malignant poison. Smoking is the worst thing you can do to your health.
When did she say this? Just
She said that about 18, was that around 1860, 70?
Somewhere in there.
wow.
In there. I'll look that up for you. We'll Google it.
No, it's okay. But
Okay. I did stop smoking clinics in several of my churches for years. A doctor, and in Santa Monica, we had as many as 60 people who would come out for stop smoking clinics. No tobacco, no alcohol. The second vital health habit is to follow a plant-based or vegetarian diet. At least a vegetarian diet. A vegan diet is best. The original diet mentioned in the book of Genesis is a vegan diet. The third health habit is to eat nuts regularly, which reduces the risk of heart attacks. The fourth habit is to exercise vigorously, and the fifth is to maintain a healthy body weight. John Westerdahl swims 2 miles a day and has crossed from San Francisco to Alcatraz by swimming, which is very difficult. Adventists who consistently follow all 5 of these lifestyle principles can live up to 10 to 12 years longer than the general population. Now, if you could get an extra 12 years, that'd feel good. How much would you pay for it? There's not enough money. That's right. No. It's free, but it requires a lot of effort and work, and you gotta cut back on McDonald's, Taco Bell, etc. By the way, the National Geographic report mentions that Sabbath observance is a key factor in the Adventist group's increased health and longevity. Quality rest and serious exercise work together. I just heard that health expert that I was talking about on television this week say the most important thing you can do for your health is get enough sleep. Good sleep. Now, my dad lived to 93. That was a good age. My uncle Arthur, retired pastor, made it to 3 months shy of 103. My Aunt Dee made it to 103 in 6 months. And my wife's first mother-in-law made it to 106. And my cardiologist, Dr. Aliabadi, I saw him today. You know, my blood pressure was 112. My bad cholesterol was 44. And he told me if I took Lectio once every 6-month infusion of Lectio, I'd make it to 120. I'm ready to go. She doesn't want to live to 120, but I'm going to make her. Okay. 120, okay? Now, yes, Westerdahl reports that blue zones produce a high rate of centenarians who suffer a fraction of the diseases that commonly kill people in other parts of the developed world. I'm a vegetarian, except when a tuna fish sandwich swims up onto my plate. Have you ever seen that happen? Okay. Now, OI Church has a wonderful vegetarian luncheon every Sabbath, right?
Yes.
Is anybody welcome?
Anybody?
How much does it cost per person?
0.
And if you don't want to go to the church service, sneak in after the service is over, try a very good free lunch. Okay? And Westerdahl reports that when blue zones have been compared, common lifestyles, there is one more additional similarity between them, and that is connectedness. That means that family and social involvement, engagement is important to the people. Loneliness is the painful consequence of our modern society. Connectedness is so important. How many good friends do people have? How active are they in their faith collective? Have they discovered a reason for living, a purpose for their lives? Now back to the reason the Adventist Church came into existence. New Testament tells us what the end times will be like. Wars, rumors of wars, now the possibility of thermonuclear war raises its ugly head. Jesus mentioned pestilences. Oh, COVID came as a big surprise to me. It shouldn't have. Earthquakes. Are they increasing? Famines of food, famines of water. Religious intolerance and persecution. Of course, we can say, well, what's new? These things have always been part of the human experience. You Adventists keep announcing the end of the world is at hand, and it doesn't happen. Get a life. But there are two new things. In the prophecy of Daniel 12, chapter 12, we are told that in the end times, men will run to and fro, and knowledge will be increased. We live in a time when knowledge is absolutely exploding. Knowledge is increasing at an exponential rate. According to the knowledge doubling curve, knowledge doubled every century until 1900. By 1945, it was doubling every 25 years. By 1982, it doubled every 13 months. Today, driven by the internet and artificial intelligence, some experts estimate that overall human knowledge is quite possibly doubling every 12 hours. Knowledge will increase, said the prophet Daniel, and men will run to and fro. One more, another amazing scripture. According to Revelation chapter 11, verse 18, the nations were angry and your wrath has come. The time has come for judging the dead and for rewarding your servants, the prophets, and your people who revere your name, both great and small, and for destroying those who destroy the earth. Yes, I believe that climate change is happening. We love Switzerland. My wife and I went there every year except for this year because she hurt herself. It's sad to see how fast the glaciers in the Alps are melting. Right now, heat waves are severe across Europe. It's supposed to hit 106, I think, here Friday. It has never been possible for humanity in past history to destroy our planet home until modern times. You may disagree, but I think that this is what has been happening. Now for the conclusion to this long address. You don't want to come to my church and hear me preach a sermon. Oh, boy. It's such trouble. No. I don't usually go this long. Now for the conclusion. Adventists believe in an eternally happy ending to human history. We long for Jesus to take us home. The following passage of hope is what has motivated us to keep talking about the coming for nearly 200 years. 1 Thessalonians 4:13-18. Brothers and sisters, we do not want you to be uninformed about those who sleep in death, so that you do not grieve like the rest of mankind who have no hope. For we believe that Jesus died and rose again, and so we believe that God will bring with Jesus those who have fallen asleep in him. According to the Lord's word, we tell you that we who are still alive, who are left until the coming of the Lord, will certainly not precede those who have fallen asleep. For the Lord himself will come down from heaven with a loud command, with the voice of the archangel, with the trumpet call of God. The greatest sound, the loudest sound ever heard on planet Earth was heard in 1883 when the island of Krakatoa in Indonesia exploded. The sound of that explosion was heard thousands of miles away. But this verse says that when the Lord blows the trumpet call of God, it will be so loud that the dead will hear it and will wake up and become alive. And so we will be with the Lord forever. To which I must add one other verse, part of it. 1 Corinthians 15:51-4. Listen, I tell you a mystery. We will not all sleep, but we will all be changed in a flash, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump. For the trumpet will sound, and the dead will be raised imperishable, and we will be changed. For the perishable must clothe itself with the imperishable, and the mortal with immortality. Here's where Adventists get in a lot of trouble with Christians and other churches. I was doing a funeral one time for one of our church brothers, and friends of his wife from another church were all there, and they got up, and the pastor got up and rebuked every single thing I'd said in my sermon. Well, we met out in the hallway and had a very interesting conversation. Listen, I tell you a mystery, we will not all sleep. I think we share this with our Jewish friends, that when you pass, you sleep. When the perishable has been clothed with the imperishable, and the mortal with immortality, then the saying that is written will come true: death has been swallowed up in victory. We are not immortal now. And finally, this is what we long for. In Revelation 21:1-5. I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no longer any sea. I saw the holy city, the New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride, beautifully dressed for her husband. Heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "Look, God's dwelling place is now among the people. He will dwell with them. They will be his people, and God himself will be with them and be their God. He will wipe every tear from their eyes." Friends, I'm so tired of going to funerals, memorial services, life celebrations, and crying over and over about the loss of family and friends. Wipe every tear from their eyes. One time when I pastored Lancaster Church, a gentleman in the church, he was a black gentleman who he taught athletics at our school in town, and his brother died, and he invited his friends in our church, including me, to show up at the funeral. So we went. His pastor, his brother's pastor, was their black pastor who brought his own band. Oh, I'd like to have my own band. When he made a strong point, the band came in strong. And when he had a gentle point, it was very quiet. Well, when he got to this verse, he will wipe every tear from their eyes. He put his hands over his head like this, and he started to dance there in the mortuary, around and around in circles. If I try it, my balance isn't good, I'll fall over. He was so excited about that phrase. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. No more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. That's what we hope for. And one way or another, we're all working together towards the new age, towards the new earth, towards a better world. And I think we need to not be competitive. We need to reach out and join hands and realize that we are friends and that we are working together for the common good of people who are desperate, don't understand what it means to live with faith in God.
Sit down when we take questions.
Oh, okay.
Come on up then,
All right.
and we'll take some questions. I know that some of our folks have questions. Go ahead, Rabbi Mike.
So, on a very general level, the only thing I knew about Seventh-day Adventist is big on hospitals, not big on pork, and
We got that one.
yeah, and the Shabbat. So the first question that occurs to me is, in what ways are you different than, and I don't even know if I should say Trinitarian Christianity. I presume you consider yourself Trinitarian. Does the rest of the world consider Seventh-day Adventist to be Christian, or is that so my first question really is, in what ways are you different than what we might just call normative Christianity?
Some people in times past have been very dogmatic that Adventists are a sect, which I don't believe in. I don't believe it's true at all. But where we differ, of course, is on, for example, Seventh-day Sabbath. I'll be frank with you. The reason why the Christian church gave up the day of Jesus was because it was Jewish. And by the time you get to the 3rd and 4th century, anything Jewish was cast out of the church, and so there went Sabbath from Christian observance. There have been Sabbath-keeping Christians in Ethiopia and in an island off Ireland and scattered around. So that's a big reason. Now the debate is coming back, and it's more of a friendly debate now because of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk wrote a very good book on the Sabbath. My wife has it. I haven't gotten through it yet. But he wrote a very good book on the virtues of Sabbath keeping. And so that's one. The other one is what I just alluded to, which is that a lot of fundamentalist Christians, evangelical Christians, doesn't matter that 300 times the second coming of Christ is mentioned in the New Testament. They want to focus on at death, you go from this life into the next life. You just move on, see? And then later on they come back and get your body. But when they come back to get your body at the second coming, it's instantly transformed into the heavenly celestial body. You don't keep it. You come up out of the grave, but you don't keep it. You get a brand new body. Well, you could have gotten that in heaven and spared the whole trip, you know. So here's the real problem with it. Because I'll be frank, you know, my dad and my mom are gone. If they were in some mellow spot in heaven, you know, some Caribbean island, having a blessed time. But either you're mortal or you're immortal. Immortal means you're death-proof. You get that at the resurrection. It says it plainly in 1 Corinthians 15. Now, if we were immortal now, then we're led into the worst heresy, the most horrible teaching of all religion ever, which has been loudly proclaimed for centuries by a certain Christian church. And that is that when you die, you go to hell and you burn in horrible fire and extreme anguish and pain forever. Well, there would never be an end of sin, because the lost, burning in eternal fire would be cursing God, no chance of repentance. It would just go on and on and on and on and on and on. See? So, I did a service at one grace, and the pastor, nice guy, he announced that the deceased was a golfer, and this was 3 days after it passed. He was already in heaven golfing with his guardian angel. So anyway, I'm not trying to make fun, but you either are mortal or you're immortal, and once you reach the point of the resurrection, which is Old Testament teaching right there in the book of Daniel, you are immortal. Only God could find a way to put you out of existence.
So specifically, we're mortal now, but would become immortal with the second coming?
Yeah,
Okay.
Other questions?
yeah. That's a hard one for a lot of Christians to, friends of ours to accept. Okay, go ahead.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Were you scratching your ear?
Yeah. This lady over here has a question.
Dangerous to do that.
You mentioned that the church headquarters are in Washington, D.C.
They have actually been moved, I think, to Silver Spring, Maryland now.
General area.
Yeah.
So who is and how is the leader chosen? Is there a single leader? What's the governing body? How does that?
The General Conference president, newly elected, is an Argentine. Remember, I said South America and Sub-Saharan Africa is where the church. The world is divided into divisions, like there's the European division, North American division, with their own headquarters, and then unions, like the one in Westlake, 5 states, local conferences. We're in the Southern California Conference. That's been my whole ministry here. Let me tell you we have managed to erect a giant ecclesiastical administrative empire that is extremely expensive. And it has worked to promote worldwide evangelism, but it's very expensive, and leadership is very, now, you're conservative, reform?
No, I'm Christian, I'm Episcopalian.
Oh. Are you a conservative Episcopalian or a reform?
I'm a liberal Episcopalian. This gentleman back here is conservative Jewish, this gentleman back here is.
See, there are a
Reform
lot of
Jewish.
liberal Adventists, there are a lot of conservative Adventists, and there are a lot of Orthodox Adventists. And if you meet one that's going, you Sunday keepers, you, oh, you just met an Orthodox. But I'm telling you, I'm a conservative one, and we get it from both sides. Because some people say I'm too liberal, and the liberals say, why don't you stop talking that old stuff, you know? So, I mean, if we had the church reorganized in terms of modality, we'd probably all belong to, like people like me would belong to Loma Linda Church, see? They have the best preacher down there in Christianity in the world. Randy Roberts, he just catch him on the Hope Channel, channel 368, yes.
I was just gonna add, every 5 years, the World Church gets together and they take a vote on who should be the next leader for that period of time.
Yeah.
So every church member has a vote in that?
No.
They have delegates that they
You-
send.
At your local conference, you're gonna elect delegates.
I've just been told by my wife, Rockney, that we need to wind this up, so we'll take one more question from the audience. Who wants to go for it?
I actually have a question that I was told, that there is another faith that's separated from the Seventh-day Adventist Church?
We've managed to spin off splinter groups.
And that would actually have been the Jehovah Witness?
It is said that originally, way back, there was a division, and that they parted company from Adventists. Because on the State of the Dead, for example, we hold the same teaching. About that point, see, you know, Waco.
Yeah. Waco.
Waco?
Yeah, Waco, Texas.
Yeah.
And what was the name of the guy?
David Correct, right?
Okay, he started out as an Adventist. They wouldn't receive him in the Waco church, so he went over with guns. They threw out another schismatic group that were, I forget what they're called, but they were old-time schismatics away from us. Threw them out, took their property over, and you know the rest. So yes, there have been splinter groups that have been terribly embarrassing, and we're sorry about that.
Well, that's the story of Christianity, isn't it? One splinter group after another.
People,
Rockney,
if people would only stop thinking for themselves, if they would just give it up.
thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
We love this group, and thank you for letting us come.
Gary,
You're a great storyteller, by the way.
A few of them are true.
You know what, I was back because, so you don't know this, and I'm gonna remember your email now because of certain things I know. I'm a registered nurse, and I'm involved with health ministry work, as Kate is here and knows me, and Franny, that's a big thing in my life. And so I looked up your comments on the Seventh-day Adventist Church, because I kept thinking Common Spirit is the Catholic, but Common Spirit in the US has more hospitals, but Adventism has it worldwide.
Really?
Yes, so that was really amazing
Wow.
to me, to look at that and see
I never heard of
what
that organ.
Seventh-day
What is
Adventist.
Common Spirit? Is that?
It's a Catholic-based hospital. It's Dignity here.
Okay.
Back east, it had another name and they
Okay.
combined to make Common Spirit. So I just thought that was interesting, your story, and I went, wow, this is something I didn't know, but, so that kind of story, your other stories were very interesting. Hearing, Seventh-day Adventist just put out in the way you did, I appreciate that, thank you. So again, remembering that there's a flyer over here as you pick up cookies and say goodbye to each other and seeing
These are
each other.
vegan cookies?
There's a few cookies over there. I don't know how healthy they are. This is not a blue zone. There are a few.
It's a blue and white zone.
That's true, it is a blue and white zone. There's a few grapes over there too. So, August 30th, Sunday afternoon, 2:30, Caneo Mountain. I think that's gonna be a very fascinating time.
That will be good.
So we invite you to be there and to share with us. If we don't have your name on the emailing list, please either go to vcic.info or go back and pick up a brochure and get that to us.
Put it on the
Thank
survey.
you. Pardon?
Put it on the survey.
Put it on the survey, yes, put it on the survey. And if you need a pen, I have a pen.